I'm Tyrel Obrecht on the Louie Petrie Ranch, 5 miles north of Turner, Montana, on the Montana-Saskatchewan border. Cow-calf operation, we retain yearlings for our own replacements. In the last few years, we've started looking at developing water, shrinking pastures in the spring to maximize grass utilization during the growing season, calving later to be more in tune with Mother Nature, and converting some farm ground back to grass to give us more flexibility in the spring and fall with grazing options. I ranch with my dad, he's the 4th generation, and then my grandpa's the 3rd, and then my kids are now the 6th, so that's something we're really proud of. You know, we're prototyping these fence collars to try and run as many yearlings as we can on the acres we have. And the goal with that would be to increase density, therefore increasing the grazing rotation, increasing the rest to try and improve the resource. What that allows us to do by keeping more yearlings is we can either push them harder through winter, so that's going to lower our feed costs. We can breed them for a shorter amount of time to select for fertility, or maybe a combination of both. And then if you're keeping more heifers, chances are you might be able to sell some bred heifers. You're going to grow the herd back quicker in a drought like we experienced in 21-22.
So the collars, I excluded the towers because it was cost shared. I mean, we really didn't pay a whole lot of our own money for those. So the collars every year are going to be $11,000, so that's $4,400. I'm paying $4,400 more, but I'm in theory improving my own ranch, and I have a lot less headache, a lot less fence to maintain. So I think the $4,400, the acres we're grazing on these yearlings is about 4,500 acres, so I can justify $1 an acre in grass growth pretty easy. I think. This is kind of hypothetical right now, but that's why we monitor.
Through Rancher Stewardship Alliance, Martin's worked with me, so we've got some monitoring points. We're starting to look at how grass decomposes, how it regrows, what rest does for a pasture, and then through Rancher Stewardship Alliance, Fish Wildlife Services, and NRCS, there's been some pretty substantial cost share to try and get in, to make that instead of a 5-mile pipeline, it's 10, and instead of 5 or 6 tanks, there's 15. So we have a lot of options to really ramp up the grazing on the deeded property. There's been cross fence put in on BLM allotments for years. Both of our BLM allotments have freshwater infrastructure with pipelines. We've continued to improve solar panels, looking at developing springs, reservoirs. So I think it's been an ongoing process, but with the recent participation with NRCS, Rancher Stewardship Alliance, we're really ramping that up, looking at adding 10 miles of pipeline, 15 or 16 new tanks to really add a lot of options in our early spring pastures so we can utilize as much rest during that growing season as possible.
The early 60s and 70s, my grandpa and I think his brother both, participated in the Great Plains project. So a lot of our deeded pastures that we use in the spring were seeded back to crested wheat back then. And that was a huge difference, just like right here, native to crested.
Most of our considerations are long-term. Agriculture is a long game, so I think if you're making business decisions on a year-to-year basis, you're going to miss out on long-term opportunity. If you improve the resource, you're improving your bottom line. At the end of the day, these have to be viable businesses to bring families home.